Hi everybody. I am going to do a circular zipper bag tonight. You know, when I do these videos, I don't really plan ahead, but tonight I sort of planned ahead. I have my templates cut out, and as usual, I'm using the Dollar Tree disposable cutting mats for my templates. So all I've done, this particular bag is going to be the 5x7 hoop. The finished bag will be approximately 4.5 inches. So I've taken the template and I've drawn a circle. I've added a little bit for the tab. This is where you're going to turn the bag at the end. And I've also made the two pieces for the front of the bag where the zipper will be in the middle. So as usual, this is going to be a fully lined bag with no exposed seams in the middle. So I have my outer fabric and then I have an inner fabric as well. These all came in some cake layer sets that I bought off of Amazon. I've just been watching, and as the prices drop, I buy a pack or 2 or 3 or 4. Don't tell my husband, please. Anyway, I buy them. I like the way these look together. I could actually use this one on the outside if I wanted to. This one kind of looks like marble, but I'm going to use it on the inside of my bag. So I already have my pieces cut. You end up with 6 pieces of fabric, 2 for the liner and the outer edge. Hey, my sister's on here. Hi, Susie. And then the pieces for the zipper piece of the front and the top and the bottom. And the bottom is where you're going to turn your pieces. So anyway, I've already got my placement stitches for the zipper teeth stitched out on here, and I used a fabric marker. This one kind of disappears with air or water, just to line it because I am using white thread and you couldn't really see that. So I'm going to put my zipper in place, and I know you guys probably can't see what I'm doing, but I can't contort myself well enough to get there. But I am lining up the zipper over that purple marks that I just made on the stabilizer and making sure that my hardware is out of the way and that the teeth are lined up perfectly on that. There's not a lot of wiggle room for this zipper placement. A couple of you have asked me why I don't make it a little bit wider. I think that if you're lining it up perfectly, it doesn't need to be wider. So you just have to make sure. This zipper is kind of easy to tell. This one's a transparent zipper. Hi, sister. This one's a transparent zipper. I got them from AliExpress website. They come with different color teeth. I got an assortment bag, and this one just happens to be white. The blue that came with it is a darker blue. It does not match the blue on the fabric, and I kind of want it to match. And none of the zippers came with that peachy color. So anyway, we've got white one, but it's all lined up, and then I'm just going to stitch. The next 2 steps are going to be for the tack down of the zipper. And just like on the other bags, I have it in 2 separate color stops so it doesn't stitch across the teeth at this stage. You still have to leave it open across the zipper so that you can unzip your zipper later on. But for now, you're stitching just the tack down on both sides, and then we're going to place our fabric pieces. Looks like I have a couple more of you guys watching tonight, so I'm not sure who's on there, but hello, click hi, say you're here with us. Okay, so now that that piece is done, those 2 steps to tack down the zipper, I'm going to remove this tape and put my fabric pieces on. I know you can't really see what I'm doing, but really, honestly, all I'm doing is peeling tape off of the stabilizer and getting it out of the way. Nothing magical. Nothing that you're going to miss. You can probably hear my dog sighing in the background. That's Crypto. I have another dog, Remy, who is my big goofy one. They're both laid up on the couch right now. So all I did, I promise, was just take the tape across off the front of the zipper. So now this is the part where a couple people have said that they've had some issues following along because they can't see what I'm doing on here. So if you look, this is going to be the outer fabric. Hi, Martha. Hey, Vicky. This is going to be the outer fabric. This would be the bottom of the front. The zipper is going to be in the middle, and then this piece will end up being the top above the zipper. So since these are completely not exposed seams, we actually have to lay the fabric down an opposite direction for now. So this piece is going to stitch a tack down stitch along the edge of the zipper. So this is the edge of the zipper. It is a white zipper on white stabilizer, so I'm just going to mark the edge of it just so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to take the front piece of this bottom section of the bag, and I'm going to line it up. Can't do it too good with one hand, but I'm going to line it up just below that mark that I made, just below the bottom edge of the zipper. I'm going to tape it in place, flip the hoop over, hang on one second. Okay, so I'm going to do that, hold it in place just really quick, flip the hoop over, and do the same thing on the back side. Again, I'm going to line or mark the edge, that zipper. Might as well do that piece. So you can see I did that with one free hand, so it's not too straight, but so the liner piece, which is this marble looking fabric, you're going to do the same thing. So it looks like it's going to be upside down, but it's not. After this is stitched across there, we're going to flip it down and then run a tack down stitch across the front of it. So it's, I promise, not going to be upside down when we get done doing what I'm doing. So you want to make sure that your fabric right now is lined up with this tab section across the top, because once you stitch it all in place, that'll be at the bottom, and that's for turning the bag inside out. So I'm going to attach this on the back in the same way that I just attached it to the front. Just one little piece of tape, and just to hold it all in place, I'm going to put one pin up here in this tab section. So I want to make sure that I have my tab lined up, and I don't think you can see it in here, but my tab is over here on the side. So when you're cutting your fabric to begin with, make sure that you have right sides together so that your pattern pieces match appropriately. Mine don't match exactly, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of trimming afterwards, but for the most part, this is a little quick impromptu here, but for the most part, it's going to match up good enough, because once you close it, you're not even going to be able to see where it was. So I'm just going to run a little pin through the top to hold it in place. There's a piece on the back. Make sure that your outer edge of your fabric is outside that zipper line, so you know you've got it completely covered. And I'm just going to run the tack down. Now, this is my first time doing the bag with the pieces pre-cut. When I did the first run of the bag, I did not have my pieces pre-cut, so I didn't have the tabs to worry about lining up. But I would suggest that if you're cutting your fabric, I would do it right sides together or wrong sides together, as long as they're not both right side up, because if you're like me, it doesn't cut perfect every time, so you're going to end up with your tab that's a little bit offset. So after you run that stitch, just remove this piece of tape. Take the pin out if you used a pin. You can reuse this tape a couple times, because you're going to need it again here in a minute. Okay, well I got the tape caught in my stitch line, but that's okay. It's going to be perfectly sealed inside of there. So you want to fold down this liner piece on the back just above the stitch line for the zipper teeth. And just do a really quick finger press. You can hit it with an iron if you'd like to. I don't necessarily like to iron anything that's sitting in my hoop, but some people do. Wow, this tape's pretty good. It stuck to me really good. Okay, here we go. So I'm just now taping the edge of this piece down on the back just to hold it in place. I'm going to then turn it over. All I did was put a piece of tape on either end. I did not go across here. So you want to do the same thing on the front. And on the front you want to line it up just under the zipper teeth. Do a little quick finger press to make sure that it's in place. And then you can hold it all in place with a pin down here on the bottom just like you did earlier. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that pin. And pop this back on the machine, and it's going to stitch the tack down stitch across the bottom of that zipper teeth line. So your handy dandy finger saver, and just let it press your or stitch your tack down. Now while this is doing, you're also going to have the pieces for the front and the liner that you're going to do the exact same thing in the opposite order above the zipper. So if you look here, you have a nice little finished edge. It is not impeding the zipper at all. If you look back here, it's the same thing. You have a nice little edge. So you're going to take your pieces that are for the top of the zipper here. And remember, once we get it finished, we want a finished edge, a folded edge just like this. So we're going to have to start with it like this. So you're going to line this up above the edge of the zipper. Again, a white zipper, so let me just mark it. There you go. You're just going to line it up above that zipper mark. Hold it in place with a piece of tape. Do the same thing with the liner on the back. Okay, so I've got it just held with a piece of tape. You're going to flip your hoop over, and you're going to do the exact same thing. And I already drew that crooked line earlier. So you want to line it up. Make sure that you are pretty close to your edge. And if you flip it down, you'll see that it's above where that zipper tooth line that I drew. Okay, so I'm just going to put another piece of tape across there just to hold it in place. And I'm going to hold them down again with a pen just to keep them in place. Just gives it a little bit more stability. And don't do what I did, which was just jab myself with the... No blood, that's a good thing, but I just jabbed myself with that. So you might want to put a piece of tape on the outside edge of the liner pieces on the back, just to keep it from getting bunched up when it slides across your sewing table here, the deck of your embroidery machine. So let's just run that tack down stitch, and then we're going to unpin it, remove the tape, flip it up, and run the tack down just like we did on the bottom of the bag. So as you can see, we've got our nice little neat line across there. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that tape if I can get it off. These bags do stitch pretty quickly. I do like the round one. I've had a couple people stitch out the tiny round bags, or the little mini bags. I got a little bit of work to do on them before they're ready for prime time. But I think Vicky's going to be posting a sneak peek in here before long. So those are going to be big enough for some change, or a couple of small USBs, or, you know, some trinkets or something. You can use them as ornaments on your Christmas tree. They can be a little miniature gift bag. The first ones that I have in the small size do have a zipper on them. 2 of them are going to fit in a 5x7 hoop. So they are tiny when they're done. The finished size is under 2.5 inches. So I'm going to try to work on one that doesn't have a zipper, that actually has just like a folded closure. Like, you remember those little coin purses you got when you were a kid that you would squeeze them together and they opened up in the middle? Well, that's kind of the concept I'm going for. Not necessarily you're going to have to squeeze it or anything, but that kind of opening where it just flaps, one side flaps over the other side. So that's what I'm trying to figure out in my head. But for now, Vicki tested the one that is a zipper closure, and she does have some pointers for me, so I need to take a look at those as far as the instructions and stuff. I'm having a heck of a time on this one. Okay, there we go. So I got the back just kind of taped in place. I'm going to flip it back over, fold up the front piece, and then just use a pin to secure it. Again, the back piece is the one that might get caught on your the deck of your machine, so you want to make sure that that is kind of held out of the way. Okay, so now I've got the front piece in. Just pop the hoop back on your machine. I'm not adept enough to do this without taking it off the hoop, because you can't do that on the bottom anyway, but hold this down and out of the way so it doesn't get caught. Okay, so now we've got that one already done. So I'm going to remove the pin. Ooh, I almost lost the pin. I'm going to remove the pin and remove the tape from the back, because this is where we're going to start to sandwich this thing together. Now, one of the comments that I had on the last video about this part that I don't like very much, which is trimming in between the pieces of fabric on the hoop on the back side just to get to the zipper. Okay, I'm going to show you. I've got some scissors already done. I'm going to show you. I just go through and clip out the section between the teeth. Now, if I had been thinking about it, it is a lot easier before you do this. That was a comment from someone who watched the last video and said when she does this, she always clips it before. Well, I wasn't thinking about that. It does make life a lot easier when you clip it before. So I'm not even going to try to do this on camera because I can't reach it very well. But this really does not take long either. But basically you're removing the stabilizer, because I use cutaway stabilizer on these. You're removing the stabilizer from behind the zipper teeth so that you can then turn your bag without having to try and cut it later on. I don't really like tear away. I know I've said that before in these bags. It just feels too crunchy for me. And wash away doesn't give you enough stability, because obviously the first time, if you have to wash the bag, and you might, it will dissolve completely. So cutaway works better for me, and I'm just using pre-cut sheets that I got off of Amazon. I don't remember the name of the brand, but I got it from Tao Industries, T-A-O Industries. I do watch. They don't have it all the time listed on their Amazon store, but when they do, I'll buy 2 or 3 packs of them. They come in pre-packed, 3 pre-cut sheets of, I think, 100 or 125 in a pack. So this is Very easy stabilizer to work with, but it does give good stability. So anyway, this is what I'm doing. So I cut all of the stabilizer from around the teeth of the zipper. It'll just be a lot easier. So now you actually want to unzip your zipper. Make sure that it's not impeded by anything. If it is, then you've got a little bit of a problem. But if you can see the edge of the zip line, or of the stitch line over here, you need to make sure that your hardware is out of the way. So I have the hardware itself open, or the zipper open about 3/4 of the way. So I'm just going to tape this round piece out of the way. Normally I just use a zipper like this, and I don't have to worry about the zipper pull getting in the way. But this one is a little big, and I'm afraid that it may get caught. So I'm going to tape it in there. But I also have my ribbon and my hardware that, for whatever reason, I'm in love with these circle hardware pieces. Hi, I know you guys want to see what I'm doing off the machine. I can't really get to it, but all I really did, I can't fit it all in front of the camera. What I did right now was trim the stabilizer from the back side of the zipper. That's all I really did. Anything else that I'm doing off camera is either putting tape or pins, or removing the tape or pins from the fabric piece. I'm not really doing much other than just prep work off camera. I'm going to try to get a better setup so that you guys can see it. I just don't have it in my living room right now. It's kind of hard to do in my house at the moment, but I am working on it, trying to figure out a better way. So for the hardware, for the tab, I really like it when I have tabs on these things. I always want to put my tab just over the edge and try and center it around across my zipper so you can see the placement stitch, or the tack down stitches here. It's in white, so it's a little difficult, but the width of the grosgrain ribbon that I use is 5/8, and it fits perfectly over that zipper. And I'm going to line it up a little bit better, but you get the idea. So it's going to go across here. You just have to make sure that your zipper hardware, or your key fob hardware, is out of the way of the stitch line. At least I do mine between 3/8 and 1/2 inch away from the edge of the stitch line. Hey Vicki, hey Denise. So right now, I know you can't see what I'm doing, but all I'm doing is pinning this stuff out of the way. I use these beautiful little binder clips to hold things because they work so very, very well. And handy dandy Scotch tape is going to keep stuff out of the way and intact. So I'm putting a piece of Scotch tape across that zipper pull, and I'm putting another piece of Scotch tape across the hardware for the key fob. Okay, so all I really did, you didn't miss anything fun, is just tape those two things down. So now this is where your first piece of the sandwich comes in. You're going to put your, what will be the back side of the bag. So it's the outside. Once you do your flips, it'll be the back side of the bag across this. And you want to make sure that you line it up so that your tabs are across the bottom, that they line up with your tab on the front piece that you already stitched in place. Okay, so on these bags, I always add an extra piece of stabilizer just to give the bag a little bit more body and stability. So I'm going to put it, you don't really need the stabilizer in this tab because you're going to trim it away anyway, but I would just line the stabilizer up below the edge of these circular edges here next to the tab. I would just make sure that you're putting your extra piece of stabilizer. Some people use quilt batting, some don't put any lining at all. Totally your choice. I just much prefer it this way. I think it just comes out as a bag with a little bit nicer body than just a floppy fabric bag. You can use vinyl on these bags. I don't know that I would use vinyl on both layers. Maybe one thinner style vinyl on the outer layer of the bag, which is the piece that we're attaching right now, but I definitely would not do it with 2 layers of vinyl. It would just be too much. So now the tricky part is to secure this thing all together. Because my pieces are already cut into circular sections, I don't have excess at the top and around the edge to pin to. So I have to be really, really careful when I get there. So I want to make sure that I have everything kind of secured in place. It is going to stitch all the way around the bag this time. So I'm going to need to put some Scotch tape on the bottom of this just to hold it in place. If you did not use pre-cut fabric pieces, then you would be able to just trim that up later. But I did use pre-cut, so I can't really do much about it as far as securing it in place other than just making sure that the back is secure. I will put a couple of pins in the corners because it's not going to stitch down here in the corners. And I'll show you exactly what I'm doing in just a second. There we go. So this is I've got it flipped up, but I'm going to hold it like this. So I just want you to see that there's the fabric underneath, and this is the front piece, and I have it kind of secured in place underneath that stabilizer. Oop, it slid on me a little bit. Let me fix that. There we go. And then the back piece, I just have it taped in a couple of spots, so it's not going to slip out of the way on the back either. I'm not a very good videographer, I know. Hi, Tanya. Okay, so I've got it kind of pinned in place on the front. Those 3 pins are totally out of the stitch line, and I've got the back just secured with a piece of tape at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to pop that back in and let it stitch the first sandwich stitch. This is going to stitch over your zipper teeth this time. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of guide this, keep the stabilizer in place so it doesn't bunch up. And as you can tell, when it comes around to this side of the zipper, you also have hardware on this side. That was the key fob hardware. So basically, it's going to go over the zipper teeth again. It's going to stitch all the way around. It's going to make a nice pretty circle. Yes, your tabs are still intact. Those tabs are going to be used when you're turning it. Hey Brenda, how are you? I'm no Nancy Zeman, I'll tell you that, but I do have fun doing these bags. Maybe someday I'll have a little bit more celebrity oomph, right? Who knows? Okay, so I've just removed the pins off the bottom of this, so you can see this is totally flippable, I guess is what you can call that. And on the back side, I have a couple of pieces of tape. I'm going to go ahead and take those off. Okay, I'm going to save that tape because I can use it again. But for right now, what you're going to do is add your back piece. So your back piece is just going to go across, and you're going to do it again. The same as you did the front piece. You want to line up that tab. You want to make sure that you're covering all of the stitch lines that you had. And what's going to happen on this piece is that you're going to put it back on your machine. You're going to put it back on your machine, and it's going to stitch again, but it's going to leave a gap at the bottom. That gap where these tabs are is going to be for turning the bag. Okay, so this again is your liner fabric. This, anything on the bottom or the back side of your hoop right now will be the inside of your bag when you're done turning everything. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I think I need another piece of Scotch tape just on the edges of these so it keeps the bag from getting bunched up as it rides across the deck of the machine. Okay, so I just have a little piece of tape securing that. You could do another pin down here on the bottom if you wanted. It's not going to stitch down there. That tab is strictly for turning. It is not for stitching, so it's not even going to be in the way if you just want to put a little piece of a little pin on the bottom of that. So then you just pop it back into your machine. Oops, I got caught. Hang on. Okay, so this is why we check things. Okay, so you pop it back into your machine. Be careful not to get anything caught. And then you're going to let it stitch. It's going to stitch almost all the way around. It's going to leave a gap at the bottom for turning. So again, it's all sandwiched together except for that bottom piece, but you can still kind of make sure nothing gets bound up. It started over here on the edge, and it's going to stop on this edge. And if you wanted to, you could stop and slow your machine down as you go across the zipper, but it's totally not necessary. So this is going to stitch. It's going to move the needle. Now this very last stop on this particular design, it's color stop number 10. It just moves your needle out of the way. You do not stitch the last stitch. All it's really doing is just moving your zipper out of the way. So I'm going to remove the pen, remove my clip, and get rid of the tape pieces across the back. Okay, so if you remember, I had a few tape pieces, and my template measurements are not exact, although they're probably larger than they need to be. They are large enough that nothing is really going to get stuck. So I don't know if you can tell it here, but here is the edge of your zipper, or I'm sorry, of your stitch lines. So this is open. That is the gap that you're going to use. Oh, I have a kitty cat trying to come help me. That's the gap that you're going to use to turn your bag. So I'm going to take this out of here, take it off the hoop, trim it up just a second, and then turn it. If you guys can see, I do have a lot of excess, but okay, so I'm going to trim it all around. My kitty cat might, hi Laura, my kitty cat might try to help me. I did have the fabric, just rough cut according to my template. I'm going to leave a seam allowance of about, an 1/8 of an inch. I'm not going to do anything more than that. I don't really think that's necessary. It's got a pretty good secure stitch line, so it's not going to really make a whole lot of difference if you make it an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 of an inch, but I think an 1/8 of an inch is plenty. Now when you get to the teeth, hey Tanya, you can watch this as much as you want to, and you can always send me some private message if you have any particular questions. But back to this. So I don't like cutting the zipper really close to the stitch line. So I always stop when I get to the zipper, trim that out a little bit, trim the back piece out a little bit without the zipper again. And then I always trim the zipper out wider. So I don't know if you can tell it, but the zipper is wider than the stitch line. And I do that just to give the zipper a little bit more stability, because it's going to get a lot of use on this bag. So let me just finish trimming this up. I know this is probably the most boring part, is trimming the bag, trimming the bag, trimming the bag. But these little bags are so versatile. So when you get to this side again, move everything, trim above the zipper, and trim behind the zipper, and then trim the zipper a little bit wider. Okay, so that's what I did there. Let me trim this one piece back here. There we go. So, and again, just trim it to the outside edge a little bit. Okay, so now when you get to the bottom where these tabs are, you're going to trim it a little bit different. So if you pull your two liner pieces, hey Rhonda, if you pull your two liner pieces apart, you can tell that's where the inside of your bag is right now. It's not going to be the inside of your bag, but that's where it's at right now. So you have a gap here. That's going to be for turning. So pull these two pieces out of your way and trim off that excess. So if you can see, if you flip it over, you can see where the excess is. But trim off that excess because you don't need that. It's just going to be in your way. Okay, so move your tabs out of the way, trim it up nice and neat. So you're going to end up with a circle and two tabs, basically. So now you're going to flip it. My puppies are talking to me. So now you're going to flip your bag. This might take a little bit of coaxing. The round ones are somewhat easier than the rectangular ones because you don't really have corners to deal with. I do have 2 layers of stabilizer, and you do end up with 4 layers of fabric. 2 for the liner and 2 for the back, for the outer fabric. So the round ones are very easy to turn, in my opinion. This size is a really good size to turn. And you've got some little stray threads here. That's from the zipper tacked down. You trim those up when you're done. But basically you're going to turn your bag, kind of smooth out your circle so that you end up with something like this. Okay. And if you notice, your hardware and stuff is now here. I had them all taped down so you can pull your tape out. Okay. We're not going to turn the bag yet because you need to secure this liner. Okay. So now, if you look, you have another gap. Your liner fabric is on the outside. You're going to tuck those pieces in. I'm not going to take the time to wait for it to dry tonight, but you tuck those pieces in. You can either do a ladder stitch, you can do seam tape or hem tape, or you can do fabric fuse or fabric glue, which is what I have. That's what I've been using the most of. And then just clip it in place, let it sit for a few minutes. I'm going to straighten that out and make it right. So your stitch line around the outside edge, that can be your guide to tucking this in. Circles can be a little bit of a booger, but you want to make sure that you have, oh, my cat decided that the bottle of glue belonged on the floor. But anyway, I'm not going to finish this right now, but I'll show you guys what it's going to look like. But you're going to secure this in place, let the glue set for a few minutes, and then you're going to come here and open your bag the other way. Flip it out through the zipper itself. Okay, I will go back and secure that liner, but I just want to show you guys for timing, make you not have to sit here and really watch my glue dry. So here is what the bag looks like. You can straighten it out. Hush, puppy dogs. You can, I do have a stray thread there. Let me clip that. Here it is. There we go. So you can press it with a quick iron if you want to. Depending on what kind of zipper you use, you may have to use Teflon across it. But basically here is the bag. I like these zipper pulls. I did not get my ribbon lined up perfectly. Look at that. It's not completely over the zipper. So it's a good thing that, you know, this one's just for me. But you get the idea. This is what it looks like. You could put your tab at the top if you wanted to, and then your zipper would be here and your tab would be across the top. You can skip the tab altogether. You can skip the hardware for the tab and just have a finger tab. You could put wristlet length, a tab around it, whatever you want. But this is the finished 5x7. No exposed seams on the inside. I will go back and glue that one closed in there. But that is what it looks like. And just know we are working on a couple of other sizes, smaller ones than this. I like the round. You can, it's very versatile. You can use it with your Christmas use it as an ornament. You can hide your little trinket gifts in it. You can fit coins or, you know, costume jewelry pieces, all kinds of things in these little bags. It'll probably even fit a Hot Wheels or two in the smaller ones. So, okay, so if you guys have any questions, just let me know, and if I can answer them, I will. Vicky's been a really good resource. She's tested a couple of these in the smaller, tiny version for me. Like I said earlier, I will go back and look at the instructions and her notations on those, and a couple of suggestions that she gave me for the small ones. So stay tuned for those. They're coming sometime this weekend. Thanks.